So Sam, let me ask you a question. And you have these conversations as consultants, as strategists, to a lot of folks about long-term versus short-term goals. And everyone's got to have short-term and long-term goals, right? You're not going to just plan for 20 years from now. You need to plan for the next quarter, next month. You know, there's day-to-day stuff. We do content planning. Several pieces of content needs to go out in a day. So how do you differentiate long-term from short-term? Let's say if you're, the CEO of the company, obviously everyone understands long-term. They're going to do something with that business, whether it's to sell it, to acquire, do something with it, right? They're going to figure out what to do with that. So they definitely have a long-term plan. Well, can you speak to that from your experience, short-term versus long-term, and what do you consider long-term?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you ask someone when was the best time to plant a tree, that was 10 years ago or 50 years ago, right? And then if you look at some of the financial publication, they tell people to start investing in their early teen days because the money grows much rapidly as it compounds over time.
Right.
So a business is just like anything. It's an investment and it grows over time. Yes, in terms of short term, it could be as short as a month because some of those things may or may not be able to bring to fruition things that rapidly. But that could be, if you're doing like a Facebook campaign to do some sort of a small product promo or a product launch, or maybe a content asset that you created and you wanted to get some traction on it, those could be such a short time to see if whether or not a messaging or an offer actually produces some sort of engagement. But if you're really trying to build a brand and create a category or become a leader in a specific category, that you're looking at least 12 months, if not longer, because you might already have some players in the space, or you might be getting into a market that's somewhat saturated, and you need to create a name for yourself. So that long term could be on the short end, could be a 12 months, if not even longer.
Got it. What about 10 years or 20 years?
Yeah, I think if you're especially at that level, then you got to figure out what is the long-term growth opportunity of that market. So are you in a place that has a very large growth opportunity? If that's the space, then you got to look into the product categories, the different categories of service offerings that you might have. What complements and what is that growth opportunity, right? So I talked to people, and just recently I had a conversation with somebody who's getting into the solar space. They said that's actually an extremely rapidly growing space. And if you look at in the automotive industry, you see that the electric car space is actually an extremely growing market. There's a lot of fossil fuel running automobile out there, but there's not a lot in terms of electric cars, right? So there's some space you got to look at it. What is that growth opportunity in that market, and then based on that, figure out what is our exit strategy? Is it going to be to scale and grow and become this category leader, or am I trying to make my name known so someone else takes note of my company and then maybe buy me out or exit or something of that sort? So figure out what that long-term strategy is, and based on that, figure out what is that growth opportunity for your company.
Would you say it's awesome? It's a good thing to start with the end in mind?
Yeah, I think so, because you got to have something that you're aiming toward. Otherwise, you're just blindly
working.
Yeah, right. Blindly just driving.
Well, I think a lot of entrepreneurs need to look at that and say, hey, like you said, if I want to be the category leader, well, my spend has to equate that, because I can't spend small amounts of chunks of money to try to be the leader, because the leader is already there. There's already a leader, right? So you need to really team up for that, hiring the right people, spending the right amount of money on marketing. Of course, if you're a growth company, you're probably not going to have a lot of profit because you're just going to spend it back on the company, right?
Well, certainly.
Because you're not trying to, just cash out. You're trying to invest.
Most certainly, and I think this is where you got to probably start thinking about having SMART goals. You have to have specific goals. It has to be measurable. It has to be, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. And if you don't have that, you're just having some big dreams. Okay, I want to be a category leader. What does that mean in terms of revenue size? What does that mean in terms of company size? Maybe it's employee count. What about market share, right? So all those things have to be taken into account and have some specific goals and somewhat be measurable, and then it has to be realistic. So if you're such a startup, maybe you can't dream that big yet, and you probably want to figure out, okay, how do I get my first 100 customers? How do I keep them happy? And how do I make sure I lower my churn? And then at the end of the day, how do I go find 100 more of that same customers and then start scaling up from there? And oftentimes, going to 1 million is not the same playbook as you go from 1 million to 10 million. And oftentimes that 1 million is probably a lot simpler than going from 1 million to 2 million. And then that growth curve and also the growth pain is a lot different when you're going from a 2 million to 5 and 5 to 10.
Right.
And all those different milestones brings completely different dynamics. And oftentimes the leadership and the team that brought you to where you are is not capable because their vision and their mindset and limiting beliefs probably keep your organization stuck in ways, in their old ways. And they believe, let's just keep doing what we've done when we got to 2 million.
They don't
want to experiment new things. And they're afraid of all the growing pains that's going to come along when you're jumping to that next milestone.
Right. No, I spoke to somebody too about they didn't want to bring in an investor, and that's absolutely the thing that they needed to do. But because of that, they just weren't able to make, any moves in their industry because they're sort of trying to make it work from the income rather than bringing investors and trying to do it. I mean,
and a lot of times the owner-operated business is where this business owner who had the idea and the vision, the entrepreneur, they're more of like a hands-on person who's an engineer, maybe a practitioner, but they don't have the ability to cast the vision and also to bring along the right team leads to scale the business as well. So sometimes you got to put your ego you got to take the ego out of the equation, move out of the way, and maybe create opportunities or make room for someone else who actually has that leadership role to scale the company. And sometimes it's a person who actually has done it before, who knows how to raise capital, who knows how to bring top leaders or even bring strategic partners into the equation to grow and scale from there.
Good stuff. Thank you, man. Thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Sure.